All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to get into talking about Aaron Rodgers and his recent comments after the Jets lost to the Steelers. So let's kind of go through what he had to say, and I'll give you my thoughts on that and whether I believe the Jets can turn their season around. So this is what he said on the Pat McAfee show. So he said, "We've been in this spot before." He said, "We," meaning myself and some of the guys that I've played with. There's the semi-famous relaxed statement that was after 3 weeks going to week 4 of the 2014 season where we turned it around, but people maybe forget about 4-6 in 2016 when we weren't playing well at all and went through a rough stretch and just kind of got waxed in Tennessee. I do remember that, and came back home and we ran the table. Won 8 straight and went to the NFC Championship game, eventually losing to Atlanta. But that was fun stretch. We got hot and we started to believe. The power of belief is a snowball that can start an avalanche, and that's what we need, and it starts with me. So again, I know people say he throws his teammates under the bus and he's the reason that Robert Saleh got fired. This is what a lot of people will say. And again, we don't know whether it was one way or the other. Only time will tell. But he does show accountability in some way. He has acknowledged that he needs to play better. So I know people say, again, he criticizes his teammates openly and that should be done behind closed doors. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. Because you could tell, I mean, Mike Williams, yeah, he wants to get traded. He wants out of there. Because he had a catch on Sunday. It was like for 15 yards. And then he already saw, like, from the sidelines, they were telling him to come off the field, I believe, and he was just shaking his head, like, come on, leave me out there. Like, I can make plays for this team. I can help this team. But it's just now with Devontae Adams there, I mean, he really has no role on this team. So he could be traded. I mean, that's a guy that, we just talked about receivers that could be traded. That's someone that maybe, some of the teams that we talked about could go after. We'll see. And actually, the Chargers could be another team too. I mean, look, I know they lost to the Cardinals, but I know some people are like maybe a Mike Williams Chargers reunion. That'd be interesting. But more quotes from Rodgers. He said, "I felt like we've been loose. We've been having good practices, but for whatever reason, there's been a little bit of tightness on game day, and that's got to start with me. I've got to bring the same energy during the week and lead with that energy. I think there's been some good leadership moments, but I need to be a great leader. Just doing as much as I can to make sure those guys play free and not worry about making mistakes. When something bad does happen, how do we all respond, myself included? I think we can do a little bit better. That starts with me, and I'm going to set the tone this week with that. It's going to be interesting to see how we respond to this. We're in the fire for sure. It's been a rough 4-game stretch for us, coming off of a win that everybody feeling really, really good about on a Thursday night. We've got to reset and get this thing moving in the right direction starting Sunday at New England." I mean, look, that is a get-right game for the Jets, but then again, the Jets have not played great. They only have one more win than the Patriots right now. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the Jets should win on Sunday, but I don't know. I don't know. But, I mean, I agree with what he's saying. I mean, he's got to play better. He has to play better, but the other thing too is the defense has to play better. The defense cannot stop the run. Can't. And that's something that I don't think they're going to be able to solve during the season. Now, Hassan Reddick is supposed to come back, so at least that's going to help the pass rush, but I think people in the media have put it perfectly is that and I didn't say this when I recapped the game yesterday because I was going to is just they are a collection of right now they're playing as a collection of talent. They're not playing as a team. And that is a problem. And I don't know if they're going to be able to solve it. Now, Aaron Rodgers does cite, some of the moments that he's had in his career where teams have struggled and he was able to turn it around and play some really good football. 2014, he ended up winning MVP. 2016, he could have won MVP, but Matt Ryan definitely deserved it. It was either Matt Ryan or Tom Brady that year. Matt Ryan deserved it in 2016. But Aaron Rodgers, when they ran the table, that was vintage Aaron Rodgers. He played as good as anybody up until the NFC Championship game against the Falcons, which they lost. But the thing is, though, 2014 was 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Aaron Rodgers is not the same player. I will acknowledge that. He's not the same player. 2016 was 8 years ago. But the example I did cite is from a couple of years ago, 2022. Now, they didn't make the playoffs, but the Packers were struggling. And it looked like, they got no shot at making the playoffs. And again, they still didn't make the playoffs, but that team did get hot, and they rattled off a winning streak. I forget how many games it was. And they had an opportunity to make the playoffs. They did lose to Detroit, and maybe that's what ends up happening with the Jets. They get hot, and then they end up losing the last game of the season and miss out on the playoffs. But that happened 2 years ago. So that was like the most recent thing that has happened in Aaron Rodgers' career, where teams struggled, but they got hot. However, they fell short of the playoffs. Now, 2 years does seem like a long time ago, just because, since then Aaron Rodgers, tore his Achilles, and, he's a little bit older. But, yeah, so that was another example that you could bring up where they did get close, but ended up not making it. So you could probably say that could happen with the Jets. They get close, and then they don't make it. So, but he continues to be positive. He continues to be optimistic that they're going to turn it around. But, when is that going to happen? You're really running out of time. The Jets have to really string together a bunch of wins. And the other thing, too, is when it comes to those runs that the Packers have had with Rodgers and them turning their seasons around, Mike McCarthy was a respectable head coach. Definitely has lost respect from a lot of people because of, how his tenure has gone with the Cowboys. But at the time, Mike McCarthy was a respectable head coach. He was one of the better head coaches in the National Football League when the Packers went on those winning streaks. And then you go back to a couple of years ago. Matt LaFleur has really turned into one of the best head coaches in the league currently. When it comes to the Jets, you have an interim head coach in Ulbrich who's unproven. And this team shows that coaching really does matter. And I brought up all the examples of, star quarterbacks changing teams and going to, new places. There were established head coaches there. There is not an established head coach with the Jets. And that is a problem. The team continues to be penalized. I just don't really know if the Jets are going to be able to turn it around here. Now you got Tua coming back for the Dolphins most likely, and we're going to talk about him in the next segment. But, yeah, I don't know. The odds are stacked against the Jets. And again, their season is by no means over, because you look at the AFC, they still got a shot at a wild card. And maybe they do find it, and they make a run at the division. But I think the division is a long shot right now. So I'm probably going to concede there that they got no chance of the division. But they still have an outside chance to make the playoffs as a wild card. But that's not what Aaron Rodgers was brought in to do. He was brought in to, bring this team to the playoffs, win a division, and host a playoff game, and go on a deep playoff run. And right now this team doesn't even look like it's going to make the playoffs. So, can the Jets turn it around? Right now I would lean towards no, just because I thought maybe against the Steelers they could have got a win there. They were up 15-6, but everything just fell apart after that. And then the week before that, they should have beaten Buffalo, and you lost that. Once the Steelers got the momentum shifted towards them, they ran all over the Jets. The Jets never recovered after the first Rodgers interception. So, but you're playing against the Patriots. The Patriots are not very good. So maybe you get a win there. The two toughest games that they have remaining on their schedule is the Texans, who they'll be playing next Thursday night on Halloween. And then they take on the Bills in Buffalo. They still got to do that. So, if you could somehow get a win here against the Patriots, I'm saying somehow, they should beat the Patriots. And then maybe, the Texans, it's a team that, I'd say they have a shot to beat them. Even though I think the Texans are a better team. They're better coached. But it is at home. And I don't believe Nico Collins. If they get Nico Collins back for that game, it's going to be even tougher. But also, the Texans have run the football well this year. And the Jets struggle with that. So they could just rely on Joe Mixon to run the football, and the Jets will have no answer for it. So, well, we'll see what happens next week. But the Texans and the Bills, those are the two toughest games remaining. I don't really know if we're going to get a run the table here this time. And when he had the famous relax statement, that was early on in the season. That was when the Packers were 1-2. Now we're at the halfway point of the season. So I don't know. And look, Rodgers is not the same player he once was. He's not playing good, but I don't think he's Peyton Manning in his final season. Because Rodgers has made some good throws this year. He's had good moments. It's just he's turning the ball over more. He doesn't move around like he used to. And part of that is because right now he's dealing with a little bit of an injury because the offensive line has not done a great job at protecting him at times. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for the Jets to turn it around. I'm leaning towards no, but it ain't over till it's over. So, we'll see if that ends up being true. But guys are going to have to start playing better. Garrett Wilson, I don't know what happened on that pass that Rodgers had where he was wide open and he just didn't catch it and it ended up getting intercepted. I don't know what happened on that. Breece Hall has been playing well these last couple of weeks. But, guys on the offense are going to have to step up, including the quarterback, and the defense needs to play like it should. And I don't know if that's going to happen. If you get Reddick back and you get him in the building and he's playing, that gives you another pass rusher. But they struggle at stopping the run. And I don't know how they're going to fix that. So, but let me know what you guys think, though. Can the Jets turn their season around? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we will talk about Tua, his comments that he made to the media. He's trying to play on Sunday. We'll see if he does end up coming back when the Dolphins take on the Cardinals. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.